Good evening, everyone. Matsurugi here. I hope you're having a good evening. So we have the patch 1.1.0a for all platforms for Diablo 4. Excuse me. And we're going to be going over these changes. Now, a lot of people are kind of freaking out, thinking that this is like destroyed the game or, you know, made it unplayable or whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of these changes, especially when it comes to the difficulty curve for the game, much better, because it's going to make the game more challenging. And there's certain other aspects about like power leveling and how items work, damage, etc., defenses. Those changes, I actually like those changes. So that's my take, hot take, I guess. I don't know. So here we go. New unique items and legendary aspects. I'm not going to go through all of these patch notes. There's so much stuff. It's a long document. I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to try and target specific things that I think are the most important. So, unique items. This one, first one, Ahavarian Spear of Lycander, Uber Unique Staff World Tier 4. Gain a random shrine effect for 10 to 20 seconds after killing an elite enemy. Can only occur once every 30 seconds. And then the developer note. Ahavarian Spear of Lycander is an extremely rare drop. We wish you luck in recovering it from the armies of the Burning Hills. So, here's my... I think it's a cool item. Apparently it's an item that anybody can use because it's a general unique. But the problem still, and they don't address it at all in this patch, is the rarity of such items to begin with. And there's massive issues with, like, you know, nobody's gonna get this, or next to nobody. It's ridiculous. I'd like to use this. It'd be cool to work it into a build, but like the chances of you getting it is essentially non-existent. So might as well not even be in the game. Okay, these uniques at least are not uber uniques, so these ones, one for each class, is in the game. Both going to be, it's in Eternal Realm, Hardcore Eternal, and it's going to be in Season. Azure Wrath, unique sword. Lucky hit, your core skills have up to a 20% chance to freeze enemies for 3 seconds and deal 0.75 to 1.5 cool damage still. Very cool. I know the damage seems really low, but they have a note later that specifically talks about Azure Wrath and Flesh Render. So don't worry, that damage is actually not... That's like kind of like per item power or something like that, and it grows exponentially in terms of damage output. It says the Azure Wrath and Flesh Render unique items have flat damage effects which scale with power. For example, at 820 item power, Azure Wrath deals between 3359 to 6718 damage. So no need to worry. You're going to get lots of damage out of it, and the amount of damage is going to be, I think, significant, especially when it comes to Flesh Render on Druids, because you get the effects are applied to your Debilitating Roar and your Blood Howl. So, very good. Flesh Render unique one-handed mace. One thing to say about this is I wish that this was an axe. That they had two versions, one that was a mace and one was an axe. Otherwise, it's still good. Debilitating Roar and Blood Howl deal X flat damage to nearby poisoned enemies. So this is going to make using Poison Creeper and Rabies and the like even better. Especially since they actually fixed Rabies. So, because apparently when you were close to enemies, like in close melee range, Rabies sometimes wasn't applying its damage, its poison damage, properly. So now, Rabies or Poison Creeper, or both at the same time, is going to work really well with this. Necromancer. This one I really want to get to, because this is going to be crazy. Lidless Wall. Lucky hit. While you have an active Bone Storm, hitting an enemy outside of a Bone Storm has up to a 5 to 25% chance to spawn an additional Bone Storm at their location. Now, this 5 to 25% chance, I'm assuming that it's going to be based off of the item power level. Well, the item power level is always 820, but this might be a range where you can get one that has the lowest range is 5, the highest chance is 25, or maybe every time it's 5 to 25% chance. I don't know yet. chance to spawn an additional bone storm at their location. Each of your active sacrifice bonuses increases the chance by 25%, and the total number of additional bone storms you can have by +1. So, what this means is that if you sacrifice all 3 types of minions, you get minimum 75% chance, plus 5 to 25. So you get anywhere from 80 to 100% chance to spawn an additional bone storm at an enemy's location that's outside of your current bone storm. Additionally, you get an extra bone, so you minimum get 2 bone storms that you can have going at once with this. And then on top of that, you get 1 for each sacrifice bonus you have. So you can get up to 5 total bone storms ripping across the screen. On top of like Bone Spear and stuff, I think this is going to be amazing having this. And it gives Necros a reason to have one-handed weapons, which is cool, instead of two-handers. I'd probably still go with the one-handed sword because of the crit damage and stuff, but we'll see. Rogue, Eagle Horn. Unique bow penetrating shot has a 30 to 80% chance to fire an arrow that bounces off walls and scenery. Hitting enemies from behind with penetrating shot will make them vulnerable for 3 seconds. This sounds very familiar to me, reminiscent of Bone Spear when it like bounces off of walls and stuff to hit enemies. And then of course those echoes or whatever of Bone Spear, they actually make enemies vulnerable because it's the instance of damage applied by Bone Spear after the first one hits is what makes enemies vulnerable with, I think, the splintering aspect. Sorcerer, the Oculus Unique Wand. This one is cool, but at the same time, I don't like the fact that it actually takes away control of your character. Gain the effect of the teleport enchantment for free. When you evade using teleport enchantment, you are taken to a random location. I would rather if it gave me like damage reduction, or what sorcerers are seriously lacking is unstoppable. Necros too, right? I don't like that they take away control of your character and ports you to a random location. We don't know what that distance traveled is going to be, if it's going to be the distance of the evade teleport as normal. But even still, with the change in location is annoying to me. I don't like that. Anyways, developers know, yeah, about the damage. The new legendary aspects. General Audacity Utility aspect. When there are at least 5 close enemies, stun them for 2 to 4 seconds. This can occur once every 20 seconds. So that's really cool. You engage. This will be good for anybody. If you have enemies come in up to you, if you teleport in, if you shadow step in, whatever the case may be, you're going to stun enemies for 2 to 4 seconds. That's huge. 2 to 4 seconds. Up. If you get the one that's 4 seconds. Ooh. Now, one thing I do kind of wish is that the range, the number of enemies that are close to you, I kind of wish that was also like a range of like 5 to 10. That'd be cool. Coupled with if you're using the aspects that trigger, and there's a malignant heart as well that triggers stun grenades. This plus that, like lots of CC, in other words, on rogues, which that sounds like it'd be super fun. You're just stunning everybody and killing them. Craven mobility aspect, you gain 20 to 40% increased movement speed when moving away from slowed or chilled enemies. Very good. That's a lot of movement speed. Especially if you're like my rogue, my 100 rogue right now already has, basically I run as fast as a horse that's not sprinting already, or that's like, it's like 50% sprint, but all the time, right? So I don't ever really jump on a horse on my rogue anymore. This would be even better. I would put this on my boots maybe, or maybe a ring or something if possible, for mobility. Especially at low levels. Barbarian. Ancestral Charge offensive aspect. This one seems cool because I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm hoping it's like this, like a spear point, where you charge forward and your ancients come with you, right? And then they're flanking you. Or maybe it's like this, right? Like just straight, and then you move forward like that. Either way would be cool. Get some extra damage out of charge, which would be cool. Druid, Subterranean, offensive aspect. Poison creepers active also cast Landslide in a circle around you. Earth skills deal 10 to 20% increased damage to poison enemies. I'm assuming this is a multiplier. X, 10 to 20%. increased damage to poison enemies. So you could put ranks in landslide, not have landslide on your bar, still get landslide, and get an improved landslide, because now it's going to be a circle. I'm assuming it's going to be in the radius of Poison Creeper. Necromancer, Gore Quilts. This one was really cool too, I think. Blood Lance will consume blood orbs to also conjure lances from them. Each additional Blood Lance deals 20 to 50% of normal damage and prioritizes targeting unlanced enemies. So, yeah, it's not going to do... These Blood Orb ones aren't going to do as much damage as a normal Blood Lance. But you're going to be able to lance more enemies, which means that when you then use Blood Lance to try and, with the legendary aspect to, like, Blood Seekers, etc., to spawn more Blood Lances, auto Blood Lance kind of thing, right? From hitting lanced enemies already. This will hopefully enable you to do that more frequently, and hopefully without crashing the freaking game, right? Hopefully. Rogue. This one is really cool too. So Pestilent points, offensive aspect. Every third cast of Puncture is poison imbued with 100 to 150% of normal potency. So basically, if you're a combo point user rogue like me, this means that you're getting poison imbuement at 100 to 150% of normal potency on every puncture. That is amazing, because you're just applying more and more poison, and poison stacks. So here we go, right? Sorcerers. This one might be it. It seems like it'd be really good, but it depends on how much mana you have. Searing Wards, offensive aspect. After spending 200 to 100 mana, so obviously lowest range 200, maximum range 100 mana, your next firewall is free to cast and will destroy incoming small missiles. Very good. Spawn more firewalls, and those firewalls that you're spawning will stop missiles, right? Small missiles. So hopefully this works up to the corpse bow, guys. Get rid of those nasty fuckers, right? Makes you more durable. It's an offensive aspect simultaneously while allowing you to not have to take, because I always say the best damage mitigation in any circumstance, real life or video games, is if you take no damage at all. Don't get hit and you're good. So not going to go through these bug fixes. Let's see, get to gameplay updates. So here we go. Fix an issue where the number of enemies to defeat the barbarian. Not that one. So this one was big because we saw a video where people were using Berserk Ripping, Skullbreaker, and Anemia aspects to deal extreme amounts of damage, and these were kind of like scaling infinitely in instances where you could do that, doing billions of damage and stuff. Obviously that's unintended. Huge one for people using Hammer of the Ancients, thankfully. Fixed an issue where the outer edge of the quakes granted to Hammer of the Ancients via the aspect of Ancestral Echoes was dealing far more damage than intended. Basically, the outer edge of the ability was doing more damage than like 75-80% of the radius. So people were complaining that, like, you know, that means that the vast majority of enemies they're hitting are taking less damage than those on the outer edge. Kind of weird, right? Don't want that. You want everybody to take consistent damage, so they've just reduced the damage on the edge to be in line with what the rest of the radius of the skill does, which is good. Developers note, we recognize this adjustment is a significant decrease to the Hammer of the Ancients Barbarian build, but we do not want its strength to be reliant on an underlying bug. Okay, so similar with Druid, I had somebody in my Discord earlier say they were thinking about now not playing the Shred build with the Storm Chasers, or whatever it is, the Shred aspect that deals lightning damage when you crit, because the damage has been nerfed. But it had a similar problem to Hammer of the Ancients, where it was doing unintended amounts of damage, so they fixed that, right? The overpower buff thing, that's a problem. Glad they fixed it. Ravens, maybe Ravens will now be more useful here, because they'll have Bloodhowl actually they'll actually have it applied to you when you have the aspect for it, or to your Ravens. Maybe Ravens will be better now. No. So this one was a big one. This is what stopped me on my initial original Druid from playing with the tornado stuff, was with the aspect that would seek enemies and stuff, where it wasn't doing damage. some of the tornadoes weren't doing damage, so you're just casting them for no reason, right? Wasting resources, taking far too long to kill enemies. This one, I never really noticed it. I never thought about it anyways. Fix an issue where rabies would deal no damage while standing very close to an enemy. That's an interesting one, because you're, of course, in melee range when you're using rabies. So I'm glad this is fixed so that it can do its damage properly. Because it does initial damage, and then it spreads and does damage over time. And then this is the one where my friend was saying, oh, they don't want to play Shred anymore. Fix an issue where Stormclaw's aspect allows Shred to do extreme amounts of damage. So I'm glad, as I said to them, if it's an unintended thing or it's working improperly, they need to fix it so that it's working properly, even if it seems like a nerf. Just like they said with the Barbarian build, right? We do not want its strength to be reliant on an underlying bug. Okay, so Necro, where they fix an issue where Necromancers could not obtain daggers from the Purveyor of Curiosities. Do the same thing with two-handed swords. Two-handed swords on Necros, you can wield them. You can't gamble for them. It's weird. This one is funny, I think. Fix an issue where Bone Spear cast through Chilling Wind from an elite enemy would increase the number of generated echoes for that cast. Hilarious. I've never seen it myself, but because I've just recently been playing Bone Spear, and it would be hilarious to see that in action. Maybe I'll find a video on stream or something to see that before it was fixed. Let's see, Rogue, Shadow Step would... The only thing out of here, really, that I care about Rogue, is that's not on here, which in general, I've had it happen on Druid, as a melee werewolf. I've had it on my Rogue, who's a melee Rogue, where you get caught in between... You're either on... It goes you, enemy, wall, or pillar, or some other environmental thing, and then you stop moving. You lose the ability to control your character. Your character just kind of sits there, sometimes not doing anything, other times just doing like some weird animation where you're not actually like really doing damage or anything like that, and you're stuck in place. It's like you're getting CC'd just for engaging with an enemy who happens to be standing next to a wall or something. And then the same thing happens if it's a monster, then an environmental thing like a wall. Same bug occurs. That needs to be freaking fixed, because it's so annoying. It means, especially in tight corridors and stuff like that, I try to avoid those places now because of that bug. Please fix it. Sorcerer, let's see. The Firebolt enchantment apparently wasn't contributing to the Combustion Keystone passive. Massive problem, because now hopefully it's fixed. I think it was supposed to have been fixed previously, and there was some obviously unintended thing where it was causing it to not work correctly. That's good. Let's see. This one is big too. Channeled spells on Sorcerer, like Incinerate, were costing... I noticed this also on Druid. This was happening in the past, where like your Lightning Storm and stuff like that would be like an initial cost equal, and then it would do the channel amount, so you wouldn't get the full effect of the channeling of the spell. Same thing was happening with Incinerate, so now it's going to be just the channeling cost, hopefully, if it works correctly. So this one fixed multiple instances where players could unnaturally teleport during boss encounters. It wasn't just boss encounters. When you go to the transition periods in dungeons, where you get the 2 fog walls, you have to kill the enemies that, by the way, still don't give you loot and still don't freaking give you experience. Fix that, please. Dear God. I don't want to take it out, get rid of those in dungeons, or make them give me experience and loot. I don't want to be wasting my time on events where I'm forced to participate without being able to keep going because they don't give me experience and stuff. But apparently this was where you would hit the fog wall or whatever to go in if somebody went in before you when you're playing co-op, and then you would be teleported across the screen. I never had that happen during boss encounters, but I guess that was happening there as well. Good to see that that's fixed. This infinite loot chest, I never saw that, but that's funny that was happening. This one was huge. I've noticed this. Fixed an issue where monsters with a cold, bleeding, burning, or corruption affix would freeze players in one hit in Nightmare Dungeons with the cold enchanted affix, and fixed an issue where cold enchanted monsters froze players more often than intended in higher world tiers. So, basically, we've all seen it, we've all experienced it. You go into a dungeon where either elites happen to have cold affix, or the Nightmare Dungeon sigil grants cold affix on top of whatever they're using, and then also in the open world, monsters with cold, basically there was no, because you're supposed to get chilled and then work up to being frozen. That wasn't happening. You would just be insta frozen if it was an elite hitting you, right? Not so much with the, and the ones that are a big problem with this are the Khazra in the open world. So annoying to deal with. Okay, the Fields of Hatred stuff I don't care about, but the fixed an issue where the player could be damaged by the Helltide Firestorm while standing in Durandite, big problem, shouldn't be happening. Fixed an issue where enemies resurrected by shamans would continuously drop aberrant cinders in Helltide. The fix they've done reminds me of Diablo 2 and Diablo 2 Resurrected, where once a shaman would resurrect a fallen enemy, or in this game, there's other cases where enemies could be resurrected as demons and stuff like that by, I guess, what do you call them? The, oh boy, the, the church or whatever, right? The cult guys resurrect enemies as demons and stuff like that, summon them, etc. And then they would give you extra cinders. In Diablo 2, when you kill a resurrected enemy, they don't give you experience. They can drop small amounts of gold and maybe like potions and stuff, but not like regular loot, which is good. So I think this is a good fix. Items and aspects. Fix an issue where the aspect of the protector would trigger its barrier effect after destroying a breakable object. Obviously that's not good, because then you're not getting it when you need it against elites, which is when it's supposed to trigger. So fix an issue where aspect power would also increase when upgrading an item at the blacksmith. So this was, it's apparently supposed to be where flat damage modifiers like Arrow Storm or something like that, those are meant to increase as you increase the item power at a blacksmith by upgrading it. But there's other aspects, I guess, that were not that kind of like flat damage modifier, that were also unintentionally being increased. These are huge though, these next two. The level requirement for sacred items will now cap at level 60, and ancestral items are capped at 80. So this is massive. I love this. So many times I found on my level 100 rogue, or as I was getting them up to 100, items that I wanted to use on other characters that I would just trash or whatever, because they were so high level that they were not worth keeping around in my stash, because I'd have to wait exorbitant amount of times or time to pass through leveling on an alt character, even if it was a different class, because the item level requirement was based on character level requirement, not item power. So this is a huge change. I love this. Okay, monsters. I don't think there's anything in here really. Fix an issue where monsters with the suppressor affix would be immune to damage from abilities that started initially outside the immunity circle. Example, when a barbarian started a whirlwind cast before getting within proper range of the suppressor monster. Good. I remember Asmongold complaining about this, and rightfully so. It's annoying and game breaking in a lot of ways, because then they're immune to damage. Even when you move into these circle, you're not doing any damage, which is dumb. And then this one, I've seen this. I thought it was normal, but when monsters can clone themselves, and the clones would also have the suppressor affix. So if that was unintentional, good that they fixed it. It'll be a bit easier to deal with those elites when they perform in such a fashion. This one fixed an issue where treasure goblins would behave erratically if initially engaged from a long distance. This is interesting, because you engage, find a treasure goblin will appear like up here in the corner of your map, but you're down over here when you see it, like on the mini map, and then it's gone. Even though you haven't engaged it at all, it doesn't even see you, and then it just vanishes. Or like it'll sit there, and the time that ticks by, it's as if you have engaged with it, because after a certain period of time, the goblin will just escape. Now, apparently, you'll no longer have to deal with that. The timer for when it's going to escape should start when you actually engage in combat with it, and then it should start to attempt to run away, those kinds of things. Instead of so many times, especially in Hell Tides for some reason, I was having where they would have a silver bar, and they would be immune to everything, and then they would just vanish. There wouldn't even be a portal, they would just vanish off the map, gone. So quests and events, I don't care about that. User interface, miscellaneous. No. Nope. Okay, so yeah, they're going to add more tooltips and stuff like that to loading screens to do with the season of the Malignant. Cool. I can't wait to see those new screenshots of those new screens of the season of Malignant. The kind of like almost like cosmic horror tentacle crap I like that kind of artwork and stuff. So now this is huge. Gameplay updates, general. Altar of Lilith unlocks are now account wide, and map discovery is now account wide. I've tested that. It's great. Now I have the entire map unlocked on any character I make. I don't know if it works on hardcore yet. I'm going to test it when I start streaming tonight. If it is, great. So much better. Just don't forget to log into your characters that have these various things unlocked, because if you've explored the whole map on one character and gotten all the altars or some combination of both on multiple characters but not on one character, you just, maybe to be sure, log into all your characters to make sure that it propagates to all characters now. And then of course in season, it'll be in the whole season. All seasonal characters will have it as well. Overall loot quality has been significantly improved for silent chests. Good, because they're worthless otherwise. We have this is pretty big. We have generally reduced the tendency for many monsters to move around in combat, so that melee characters don't have to chase down their enemies as much. Good. So annoying, especially. And now this, of course, this doesn't seem like a huge amount. It's only at plus 10 renown from completing side quests and dungeons. However, this will make grinding renown a little bit easier, so that's good. This change is retroactive, and the additional renown gain will be applied to characters who have already completed side quests and dungeons. Good. Now here's where things get really interesting in terms of difficulty, right? So World Tier 2 has had the following bonuses added. Bonus Gold is increased from 15 to 20%, and monsters now drop 15% more items. Awesome. Developers note, we like where World Tier 2 has landed overall. I think they're talking in terms of difficulty, but are increasing its reward pace to better align with its difficulty. And then leveling scaling, this is really important. Level scaling inside dungeons and most other overworld territories has been adjusted in World Tiers 3 and 4. Monsters will begin to trail behind the player in level after a certain point, up to a maximum of 5 levels behind. This change does not affect world bosses, legion events, fields of hatred, Helltide, or nightmare dungeons. Good. This should make doing the actual endgame content like Helltides, etc., and nightmare dungeons feel more significant, because you're going to have, when you go out into the overworld, you're going to be stronger than the monsters, right? At a certain point, because they have a minimum level. So, and they explain here before. We want, dev note, we want to give players a better sense of their power progression and mastery over the world while still challenging themselves with structured endgame activities. Good. Big win. World Tier 3 example. If the player's level is below 55, the monster's level is 55. If the player's level is 56 to 60, the monster's level is 55. If you're 61, they're 56. If you're 62, they're 57, etc. So basically, up until the max of World Tier 3 is 70. So if you're 75, they would be max 70. World Tier 4, similar. If you're at or below, they're 75. And then it progresses in the same fashion up till And if the player's level is 82, the monster's level is 77, etc. So when you hit, because the maximum you would see in the overworld will be 95, but this was even happening in Helltides where they would only be like 98, and you're right. So that was a bug, I think, that was happening that was unintended. They're supposed to be 2 to 3 levels higher than you. They've actually increased the monster level to be 3 levels higher than you in Helltides, which is great. Experience. Reward experience. A lot of people are going to freaking hate this, but I think it's good. Reward experience for completing Whispers in World Tiers 3 and 4 has been significantly increased. That's good. Then when they talk about dungeons and stuff, that's different. Developers note, we have observed that the experience bonus rewarded for killing higher level monsters escalates too fast when compared to the relative challenge involved. We still want to reward players for taking on this challenge by encouraging them to participate in power leveling together instead of one player killing enemies while another member of their party waits at the dungeon's entrance. The other significant, perhaps unintended consequences of the way things have been is that there's a certain point where helping somebody else to level up, power leveling them, is okay. It's not a significant challenge to you, but then when you start to go into higher tier dungeons and the like, and they're tagging along, they're granting it was 85% increased health to monsters, so it's taking even longer to kill monsters because you have even one additional person in your party. However, for every additional person in the party, it was 85% increased health. So for 4 people in a party, if even just one person is not carrying their weight, they're making it 3 times harder, or take 3 times longer, right? Which is, okay, you want to help your friends, cool, but at a certain point, it becomes not helpful to be doing that. And it's even more now because it's actually, their health has been increased by 100% per each additional person in the party beyond yourself. So we are adjusting bonus experience rewards for killing monsters that are a higher level than the player. Pre-season of the Malignant bonuses. So this is in effect now with the patch. Okay, this is what it used to be. This down here is what it's going to be. Okay, this is what it's actually at. So 1 level higher, 15%, 2, 20%, 3 levels higher, 25%. Now, 1.5, it's going to be 1.5% bonus per level up to 10 levels. So the maximum experience gain you're going to get for a higher level monster is 15%. 1.5, 3%, 15%. Okay? We are also adjusting experience rewards for monster level offsets for higher world tiers. Current world tier level offsets. So World Tier 2 up to +3, World Tier 3 is +10, Torment or World Tier 4 is up to +100. We're changing this to World Tier 2 is staying the same, World Tier 3 is going to be +6, World Tier 4 +10. So that means that your experience is going to be capped at +10 instead of upwards of +100. You are level 1. Your friends bring you to World Tier 4 and leave you at the entrance of a dungeon. They start killing level 100 monsters. Prior to Season of the Malignant, you get level 100 monster XP times 1 plus 25%. Now they'll be equivalent to level 11 monsters, and it'll be times 15%. 1 plus 15%. Okay? So it'll be whatever a level 11 monster XP is for you as a level 1 guy, with times 1 plus 15. So I think this is good because this is going to force people to actually play their characters while getting power level, while getting help still. Because the experience I've had with helping people is a lot of time they end up getting power level, they get to a certain level, and then they don't know how to play their character, they don't know how to build their character because they haven't tested things through leveling, etc. This will slow the pace of their leveling, and it'll also force them to maybe have to play with people of more equivalent levels than them, compared to them, right? So Helltide, we're looking to increase the danger in Helltide's risk-reward gameplay by making the monsters a bit more challenging and the torture gift of mysteries harder to open. So I don't know about having the mystery chest harder to open. It costs more now. It's $250 instead of $175. For higher level characters, it's not that much of an issue because you can farm cinders really fast. They've increased how many interactable objects in the world well, during Hell Tides will give you cinders, so that's good. Or at least a chance for them to drop. And monsters are now 3 levels higher than 2 instead of 2, but if anything, maybe what they should do is they should make it scale somewhere is equivalent to your attack power and defenses or something, instead of, that might be more complicated, but like the level increase from 2 to 3, that's not, once you get to a certain point, like just think of Nightmare Dungeons. I can face, as a level 100 rogue, monsters of significant levels higher than me, even with the changes I think they've made to damage and stuff that are in these patch notes. I'll still be able to face monsters that are way higher level than me than 3. That's not, I don't think that's significant enough. They need to make it so that they scale higher than that, I think, in order, if they want to make it, or at least maybe enable an option in gameplay where you can make the monsters more difficult or something like that. Or like when you select your world tier, maybe have a sub option you can select to make monsters overall way stronger, way more difficult, to give you a more challenging, difficult experience. I think that will be better. Anyways, balance updates. As our community continues to battle the burning hells, the builds emerging from new players have shocked and delighted us. We've chosen to focus Season of the Malignant's balance updates on clear itemization disparities over redesigns of class features. The class changes are largely focused on numeric increases to skill upgrades and legendary aspects that players haven't yet found compelling. Additionally, we're changing critical strike damage paragon glyphs to empower all damage. I love this change, instead of only core skills, to enable more build strategies. There are also a few class stat decreases on sources, which grant extreme amounts of damage, healing, or unstoppable. In general, we prefer build-specific changes to be bonuses instead of decreases, but we feel these changes are necessary for the overall health of the game. Diablo 4 is a game that is continually evolving through its seasons, thus the adjustments we make will evolve with them. So, I haven't gone through the class ones yet, so let's see what we get here. So not too much, they're not too huge. Okay, Violent Double Swing vulnerable duration increased from 1 to 2 seconds. That's good. Furious Upheaval damage bonus per stack increased from 3 to 5%. Power Charge cooldown reduction is now capped to 3 targets for a maximum of 9 seconds of cooldown reduction. I guess that's maybe. I don't know if that's an increase or decrease, like a nerf or whatever. Tactical Ground Stomp Fury gain increased from 25 to 40. Cool. Enhanced Death Blows damage bonus to bosses increased from 100 to 150%. Pretty big. Enhanced Steel Grasp vulnerable duration increased from 2.5 to 3 seconds. Enhanced Rupture damage increased from 30 to 45. Warrior's Rupture attack speed bonus increased from 20 to 30%, and a duration increased from 4 to 5. Fighter's Rupture healing increased from 15 to 18% maximum life. So at least in terms of the skills and how they work, a lot of people were worried that they're going to nerf skills more for Barb. This is a big win, I think, for Barbarian, at least in terms of trying to get people to use alternative skills. Right? Passives. Hamstring now only slows healthy enemies. Ooh. And slow amount increased from... So the slow amount is increased, but it only slows healthy enemies. I mean, I guess if you just need the initial slow, and then they're probably going to die, right? You slow them, then they die, hopefully. Cut to the bone bleeding damage bonus to vulnerable reduced from 6, 12, 18 to 5, 10, 15. That's a little bit of a nerf. But Paragon Wrath Glyphs bonus now affects all damage instead of just core skills. Yep. Aspects. Relentless Berserker's aspect berserking duration increased from 1 to 2 seconds. Cool. That's one thing I noticed about the times I did check out Barbarian and played it, was that like the berserking stuff didn't seem to last long enough. Battle Mad aspect berserking duration increased as well. Brawler's aspect damage increased from increased. Cool. Aspect of Burning Rage damage increased. Aspect of the Iron Warrior damage reduction increased. Good. 3% on both ends. Slaking aspect lucky hit chance increased from 30 to 50 to 40 to 60. Nice. Aspect of Ancestral Echoes lucky hit chance increased by 10%. Weapon Master's aspect lucky hit chance increased by 5%. Items. Gore's Devastating Grips now explodes every 2 seconds or after it ends, and its hit cap has been removed. Ooh, that could be interesting. Fields of Crimson bleeding damage bonus increased from 10 to 15. Okay, so that was the Barb. Seems like Barb's got buffed, even if it's skills people right now typically aren't using. I know they're trying to encourage people to use other things, which is good. Trying to get build diversity out there, right? Druid. Skills. Enhanced claw attack speed bonus increased from 10 to 15%. Storm strike damage reduction reduced from 25 to 15%. Boulder damage increase from 33 to 46. Savage trample spirit gain from 20 to 40. Wow, they doubled that. That's nice. Prime lacerate healing increase from 3 to 5%. Cataclysm lightning damage increased from 64 to 77. And tornado damage from 19 to 23. Supreme Cataclysm vulnerable duration increased. Prime Cataclysm duration doubled in duration. Excuse me. Prime Grizzly Rage now grants unstoppable for 6 seconds instead of while active. Oh yeah. Because then you just the whole time you're in Grizzly Rage, which you can, extend the time, you're unstoppable, right? Passives. Provocation threshold required for guaranteed overpower reduced from 35-30-25 to 24-20-16 seconds. Nice. Mass Spirit Boon. Masochistic now also requires a lucky hit chance. Prickle Skin Thorns increased from, so it's up from 0.1 to 0.15. Iron Feather maximum life increased from 10 to 14%. Bolster Fortify increased from 10 to 15 of maximum life. Nice. Overload damage increased from 0.2 to 0.25. That's pretty big, man. Well, that's like, what, up 5%? Or 0.5, I guess? That's probably going to be pretty good. And, of course, not just all core skills, but all skills. Aspect of the Calm Breeze lucky hit chance increased. Balanced aspect maximum spirit increase from 30 to 50 to 60 to 80. Wow, that's huge. Spirit is such a problem. Like, it sucks that it comes from an aspect and not just something in the class itself, but it is what it is, right? Aspect of the Tempest damage bonus increased by 3%. Skinwalker's aspect healing increased by like 2%. Symbiotic aspect cooldown reduction reduced from 4 to 8 to 3 to 5. Aspect of the Stampede damage bonus. I don't know about this because it's if you're using this aspect to reduce cooldowns. I mean, cooldowns are a pretty big aspect or way of utilizing. Cooldowns are a major role on drones, generally speaking. So reducing the amount of times that they can use their cooldowns when a large part of their damage and utility and everything comes from it, I don't know if that's good. Aspect of the Stampede damage bonus increased by 6%. Shepherd's damage bonus increased. Ooh, this is the one for you have extra damage per companion, I do believe. So that's gone up by 2% on the higher end, 6 to 10 instead of 6 to 8. Items. Insatiable Fury Werebear skill ranks increased from 2 to 3. Mad Wolf's Glee Werewolf skill. Oh. Mad Wolf's Glee, isn't that a unique? Are these both uniques? Werebear and Werewolf. I think they are, yeah. So you get a +3 instead of +2 now on uniques. That is, fuck yeah. I've never had them before, but when I do eventually get them as a druid, that'll be cool. Necromancer. Skills. Initiate's Decompose skill. Slow increase from 30 to 50. Cool. Paranormal Sever casts required for vulnerable reduced from 4 to 3. Enhanced Blood Surge healing increased from 2.5 to 3% of maximum life. Enhanced Blood Lance damage reduction for piercing reduced from 15 to 10. Again, with these reductions in like cooldown reduction and damage reduction and stuff, they're trying to give more risk reward ratio. Like, you got to choose between doing more damage and being more defensive. But if you be more defensive, you're going to lack a bit more damage. And if you're offensive, you're going to lack defenses. So it's like kill things really fast, if possible, or kind of outlast things by being more defensive. But generally speaking, defenses are harder to come by now, which I think is fine. I mean, I'm somebody who comes from like playing Elden Ring and Dark Souls and stuff as well. those really challenging games, and I'm okay with it. Bone Prison initial essence gained increased from 15 to 25. Abhorrent Iron Maiden healing increased from 5 to 7% of maximum life. Golems move faster and unhindered through enemies when their cooldown is activated. Good, because that was I've never used it, but that was a big problem people were having. They were like running up and getting stuck on shit. Raised Skeleton, Corpse Explosion, and Corpse Tendrils range for auto-targeting corpses on mouse and keyboard increased by 50%. I mean, why not just make it the whole screen? Why do I have to hit, like, specific areas? Like, why can't I just hit Q or whatever my bar is, and it just auto-uses them, right? I mean, yeah, okay, maybe because you're trying to target shit within range of your enemies, so that makes sense, but... Raised Skeletal Priest bonus damage increased from 20 to 30%, so it's increased by 10%. Raised Skeletal Priest healing increased from 10 to 15. That needs to be higher. I was, while testing Necro yesterday or the day before or something, the healing for consuming a corpse or whatever and using this ability was, like, annoying. Just sitting there trying to do it over and over again to get your skellies up. Passives. Evolution bonus damage to vulnerable reduced. Okay, because yeah, another thing is they're trying to reduce how mandatory vulnerable and crit damage is in the game. They're still going to, I think, be mandatory things because of the fact that by their very nature, they're not additive. They are multiplicative damage modifiers. So they're still going to be mandatory, but they're not going to be as good as they were. So maybe it'll, yeah, we'll see. Transfusion minion healing increased. Good. Drain Vitality Lucky Hit Chance increased. Good. Amplified Damage increased from 369 to 4812. Cool. Book of the Dead. Necromancer's minions will now automatically resummon after respawning during a world boss fight. Can they just do this every time after fight, in between fights, so I don't have to sit there, like, rezzing them, right? Like, just do it automatically. And then if I want to, I can also revive them during fights and stuff. Skeleton Warrior Defenders upgrade Thorns Inherited increased from 40 to 50%, so 10%. Shadow Skeleton Mage upgrade attacks required for an additional Shadow Bolt reduce, so you don't have to do as many. Bone Skeleton Mage upgrade Fortify amount increased by 9% from 11 to 20. Iron Golem's upgrade attacks required for slam attack reduced from 5 to 4. Paragon, right? Essence Glyphs bonus now also affects all damage instead of just core skills. Aspect Splintering Aspect Bone Shard damage bonus reduced from 50 to 100 to 30 to 60. Everybody knew this was going to be reduced because it was hitting way too fucking hard. Like, I went from playing Blood Lance to Bone Spear, and the difference in capabilities was massive. They should be on par with each other, but functionally different in terms of how they're used, how you apply your damage or whatever, right? Like, keep them I don't want them to be the exact same thing. So it's good, but at the same time, like, okay, I need to pick more music too. Let's go with Busuchi. Good stuff. What? Your content was removed? Okay, I'll have to check that out afterwards. Jesus. Aspect of Plunging Darkness bonus damage increased from 50 to 100 to 75 to 125. Shouldn't they keep that in line with, like, Bone Shard or like with Bone Spear and stuff instead of making it higher, unless it's base in general as the skill is lower? I don't know. Coldbringer's aspect Blizzard cooldown reduced from 10 to 8 seconds. Aspect of Hungry Blood chance to fire blood lance increased from 10 to 20% to 13 to 23%. Good. Blood soaked aspect damage increased from 0.15 to 2 to 0.24 to 0.31. Aspect of Ultimate Shadow damage increased from 0.16 to 22 to 0.43 to 0.48. Play. Thank you. Osseous Gale, Aspect of Grasping Veins critical strike damage bonus reduced from 30 to 60 to 20 to 40. Oh, that hurts. Osseous Gale aspect bonus. Bone Storm duration increased from 4 to 8 to 5 to 10 seconds. Aspect of the Damned damage bonus increased from 30 to 40 to 40 to 50%. Blood Bathed aspect echo damage reduction. Damage reduction reduced from 70 to 60 to 60 to 50%. Aspect of Reanimation Skeletons. Damage bonus increased from 20 to 30% to 30 to 40%. And items, Bloodless Scream Essence gained increased from 2 to 5 to 7 to 10. Deathless Visage damage increased. So they go and nerf Splintering, but they increase Deathless Visage for Bone Spirit from 0.25 to 0.28 to 38. Okay, cool. Sorcerer. Aspects. Aspect of Disobedience, maximum stacks. Oh wait, that's general, sorry. Whoops. Where did it not open the sorcerer? Is this... Oh, this is rogue. Okay, here we go. Advanced rapid fire duration increased from 3 to 5 seconds. Caltrops cast speed increased by 15%. Enhanced cold imbue lucky hit chance increased by 10%. Enhanced smoke grenade damage bonus increased from 15 to 20%, or increased by 5%. Methodical dash maximum cooldown reduction increased by 1 second. Concealment stealth duration increased to 5 seconds. Oh, thank you. I love concealment over dash mostly at mid to end game, because having an additional form, getting another set of a chance to use Unstoppable, but without having to target enemies, which can be wonky at times in this game because the hitboxes and stuff not being, I think, done right in a lot of instances, is good. Enhanced Dark Shroud's chance to not be consumed increased by 4%. Supreme Death Trap cooldown reduction increased from 10 to 12 seconds. Supreme Death Trap cooldown reduction increased. Okay, so that's a buff. Good. Pass, because Death Trap is not being used as much as Poison Trap, obviously. Passives. Victimized Lucky Hit Chance increased from 30 to 35. Siphoning Strikes now also requires a Lucky Hit Chance of 75%. Ooh. I think that's the one that... Isn't that the passive that just gives you healing, right? Based on maximum life. Rugged damage reduction against damage over time effects increased. That's good, because I wasn't really using that, for instance. Mending Obscurity healing per second while stealth increased by 1, 2, and 3%. Aftermath energy restored increased from 25, 50, 75 to 30, 60, 90. Paragon. Of course, Combat Glyphs bonus now affects all skills and not just core skills, or all damage and not just core skills. Eldritch Bounty was apparently giving, I know one thing they fixed was that it was unintentionally giving extra bonus resistance or something, which resistance right now, who cares, right? But Eldritch Bounty, legendary node duration increased from 6 to 9 seconds, so a 3-second increase, cool. Specialization, Preparation's ultimate cooldown reduction increased from 4 to 5 seconds. Cool. Legendary aspects. Aspect of Volatile Shadows damage increased. Basically doubled. Yeah, is what it looks like. Icy Alchemist aspect chill increased from 15 to 25%. Shadow Slicer's aspect damage increased from 25 to 35% to 80 to 100%. Wow. Toxic Alchemist damage increased from... Yeah, it's basically also doubled. It looks like. Vengeful aspect lucky hit chance increased by 10%. Aspect of imitated imbuement's duration increased from almost doubled from 5 to 9 seconds. Aspect of stolen vigor healing increased from basically they doubled it on the low end, and yeah. Aspect of lethal dusk life on kill duration increased by 2 seconds. Aspect of noxious ice bonus damage increased by 4%. Aspect of elusive menace dodge chance increased from 1 to 5 to 3 to 7%. Item Sky Hunter's energy gain increased from 15 to 25 to 20 to 30. Nice. Grasp of Shadow lucky hit chance increased by 4%. And now Sorcerer. So not too much of a nerf to rogues. which I'm glad to see. This isn't including what comes after this, though. Okay, so enhanced charge bolts damage increased from 24 to 30% and now benefits from skill ranks. Destructive charge bolts damage reduction increased by 5%. Destructive incinerate damage reduction increased by 5%. Ice Blade's cast cleanup has been tightened, allowing players to act after it's cast sooner. Good. Firebolt initial damage increased by 18%. Wizard's Firewall maximum increased mana regeneration increased by 10%. I'm sure my buddy Valen is going to be super happy about that because that's what they're going to run is Firewall. Wizard's Blizzard core skill mana cost reduction increased by 10%. I'm sure my brother will be super happy about that because that's what he's running is like, well, at least an ice build, so maybe he'll be more likely to use Blizzard because it'll cost less. Supreme Deep Freeze cooldown reduction increased from 50 to 100%, so it literally like takes away your cooldown altogether. Is that what that is? Like you get a 100% uptime on that now? On your other skills? Wow. Passives. Elemental Dominance now also affects mastery skills instead of just core skills. Potent Warding duration increased from 3 to 9 seconds. Protection Barrier duration increased from 2 to 3 seconds. Align the Elements damage reduction per second increased from 123 to 369. So they tripled that essentially. Mana Shield damage reduction increased by 2, 4, and 6%. Devouring Blaze bonus critical strike damage reduced, because of course they're reducing critical strike damage across the board, from 10, 20, 30 to 7, 14, 21%. Devouring Blaze bonus critical strike damage to immobilize reduced from 25, 50, 75 to 10, 20, 30%. That's a huge nerf for that. Fiery Surge mana regeneration increased from 10, 20, 30 to 15, 30, 45%. Paragon Destruction Glyph now affects all damage instead of just core skills. Wait. Element Dominance also affects mastery skills instead of just core skills. So those two things will work together good. Enchantments. Spark Enchantment, chance to form crackling energy increased by 4%. Frozen Orb Enchantment, chance to be cast increased from 20 to 30%, so 10% increase. Incinerate Enchantment cooldown reduced from 18 to 14 seconds. Hydra Enchantment mana threshold reduced from 300 to 200. So I guess you'll be able to do that more often. Legendary aspects, there's a lot of them in here for Sorcerer. Aspect of Efficiency mana cost reduction increased by 5%, and now also affects mastery skills. Aspect of Armageddon damage increased. Aspect of Shattered Stars damage increased. Serpentine Aspect Hydra duration reduction reduced. Wait, Serpentine Aspect Hydra duration reduction reduced from 30 to 20 to 20 to 10. Glacial Aspect Ice Spikes bonus damage to Frozen reduced. Glacial Aspect Ice Spikes damage increased, so its base damage has been increased, but the bonus damage has been reduced to Frozen. Aspect of the Frozen Tundra Ice Spikes damage increased. Aspect of the Frozen Wake Ice Spikes damage increased. And Chill increased. Nice. Aspect of Biting Cold, chance to apply vulnerable to frozen enemies increased. So your chance to apply vulnerable is higher. From 25 to 35 to 30 to 40%. Oh, okay, yeah, it's up by 5%. Encased Aspect Life and Mana Restore per second increased from 10 to 20% to 20 to 30%. Stable Aspect Chance for a free cast increased from 5 to 10 to 7 to 12%. Aspect of Splintering Energy, chance to spawn an additional Lightning Spear increased by... Whoa, that's huge. 11 to 20% to 41 to 50%. Wow. Aspect of the Unbroken Tether, chance for additional Chain Lightning Chains increased by 5%. And items. Gloves of the Illuminator Fireball damage reduction reduced... Wait, Gloves of the Illuminator Fire... So the amount of damage reduction you get from this is reduced by 10%. Isu's Heirloom Critical Strike chance from move speed increased. So they've increased critical strike chance in some instances, but reduced the damage you get from critical strike damage overall. Isidora's Overflowing Cameo chance to release a Lightning Nova increased by 5%. Now, here's the most interesting ones, I think, is the aspects, general and whatnot. These are things that are really big for people. So, overall. Aspects. So, disobedience, maximum stacks, reduced from 100 to 60, and their bonus armor is reduced from 25 to 50 to 15 to 30%. Aspect of retribution, bonus damage to stun reduced by 10%, 10 or from 20 to 40 to 10 to 20%, so it's half. Exploiter's aspect bonus damage to unstoppable, that's reduced on the higher end by 10%. And Starlight aspect resource restore increased from 10 to 20 to 20 to 40, so that's double. That's good. I'm assuming that's primarily for, like, I bet druids or anything like that. I don't know if this is a specific to casters or one specific class or not, but if not, it's good for anybody that needs resource, etc. Items. The Butcher's Cleaver Slow is increased. Drop rate adjustments. Item. Increased bonus to drop ancestral and sacred items in nightmare dungeons from 5 to 10%. Good. Removed a 20% chance to drop an extra equipment item from elite monsters outside of nightmare dungeons and Helltide. Again, they're trying to improve your chances of getting incentivizing you to go more towards, like, nightmare dungeons and Helltides. So that was apparently they're on World Tier 3 and 4. They had a 20% extra chance outside of nightmare dungeons and Helltide to drop extra items. Now that's only going to be Helltide and nightmare dungeons. Increased chance to drop an extra equipment item from elite monsters in nightmare dungeons and Helltide by 10%. So now so they have that same buff of 20%. Now that's increased by 10%. So it should be 30%, I'm assuming. Nightmare dungeons now have a 50% chance to drop a second legendary item upon completion, which should kind of double your chances, I hope, at least in nightmare dungeons, to get unique items, and especially the uber uniques, as low of a chance as that is. And nightmare dungeons also give 3 rare items upon completion instead of 4. So you can get up to 5 items at the completion of a nightmare dungeon. Awesome. So this is what I was talking about before about monster HP when you have people in a party. It's up from 85% to 100% bonus HP to monsters per extra player in the party. So they can go up to 300%. Miscellaneous. Adjusted the scaling of the Greed Shrine. Cool. Hopefully it's going to drop a lot more gold when you get it, so it's valuable to actually pick it up. A lot of people just skip it, right? There's no longer a limit to how many materials you can refine into higher materials at once. Thank God, because why was it at 20? That was so annoying. Item affixes. Dev's note. Many affixes are too efficient and are outshining alternatives. We're looking to refine the outliers, improve the number of meaningful choices on competitive slots, and increase the overall flexibility of items. We know these changes will reduce the total amount of possible power a character can possess, so we'll be monitoring how these changes affect players' ability to conquer expected milestones throughout the season. Again, this is these are affixes, right? So these are what you find, generally speaking, on items. This will also affect uniques, right? Because they have these affixes as well. So you're going to see different kinds of affixes that people primarily ignore and don't use in favor of having maybe the affixes on Ashiras will be more valuable now for outside of just the power, and same with the Condemnation Dagger, because they generally have bad stats, people view them as, compared to if I just had a legend or a rare dagger that I can choose which stats to some degree are going to be on there. So we're increasing the availability of the affixes below to make them easier to include in different builds, so that's good. So when you're re-rolling for aspects on rares and stuff, control impaired duration reduction can now pair on pants. Barrier generation can now appear for all classes. It will also begin dropping later in the game. Lucky hit chance while you have a barrier can now appear for all classes, reduced by 12% when on helm and 20% when on amulet or offhand. Mastery skill damage, newly added, can appear on sorcerer weapons, scales identically to core skill damage. So that's good. So this will hopefully make sorcerers feel more powerful when they get this affix on their gear. Resistance to all elements can now appear on shields. I mean, the only ones who care about that obviously are the only class that can use shields, Necros, but who freaking go fix resistances, and this will be valuable and allow sorcerers to wield shields as well. I mean, hell, just let everybody wield shields. Why the hell not? Such a weird choice. Dev's note: the core stat bonus on weapons has been overperforming, so we're pulling back on this bonus. So this is interesting. Basically, they're having the damage. I guess this is the core stat bonus on this stuff up here. That's what this is kind of referring to, I think. But they've halved the damage bonus or scaling of your main stat on your gear. On weapons in particular, only on weapons. So it's literally halved from 50% to 25% on weapons. Cooldown reduction affix is often felt mandatory due to the raw power. We imagine cooldown reduction will remain a highly desirable stat, but the penalty for not prioritizing it won't be as harsh. I mean, the only one that I've ever really seen that was really getting punished by not having cooldown reduction, if they didn't have it, in my opinion, was Druids, because they very heavily rely on cooldowns, right? So cooldown reduction, its effectiveness is reduced by 30%. Basically the reduction of cooldown has been reduced by 30% across the board. We're seeing critical strike damage and vulnerable damage, often viewed as a hard requirement. They're multipliers. In their vulnerable damage especially is in its own category, right? So, and you don't want critical strike damage versus close enemies and things like that. You just want flat critical strike damage, just like you want vulnerable damage, paired with critical strike chance, because that's a multiplier. Critical strike damage is a multiplier, and vulnerable damage is a multiplier. So even though they're reducing those amounts by 17% across the board, 40% for vulnerable damage, its effectiveness is reduced by 40%. It's still a multiplier. It's still going to be mandatory, guys. Sorry. The better way to do this would be to just make all damage, maybe get rid of multipliers and just make it all additive. And maybe then you'd have more build diversity in terms of like specializing in damage types versus situational stuff, maybe. But it's still a multiplier, so there you go. Or maybe add vulnerable damage, have categories for like to close enemies and stuff like that, maybe as well. Devs note: disparities in inherent affixes can roll some weapons out before the rest of their stats are even rolled. These are receiving harsher reductions than the normal affix counterparts to increase weapon flexibility. So critical strike damage inherent on swords and vulnerable damage on crossbows reduced by 50 and 65%. I mean, yeah, I would never run anything but typically swords on like a barb, or at least one sword on a rogue, for instance, most cases, because of the critical strike damage. And then vulnerable damage, I'm still gonna use a crossbow because it has the because the damage to distant enemies, it's an additive stat. I don't want that. Vulnerable damage is still a multiplier, so of course I'm going to take a crossbow, and you can get double roll of it on there as an affix, right? So if they put like, I don't know, critical strike chance on bows as the inherent stat, and then that would make it, then I would be like, okay, do I want more vulnerable damage, or do I want higher critical strike chance on my stat stick bow? I might take the bow in that. It would be 50-50 at that point. I would maybe be willing to take bows over crossbows in various instances, right? Because I could still get vulnerable damage on the bow, as a role, and critical strike damage and main stat and alt stat or something, right? Like, so next, damage bonus to crowd controlled enemies was overperforming relative to the ease of activating it versus stricter crowd control type specific affixes. So damage, generally speaking, to crowd control enemies reduced by 30%, and damage to frozen enemies increased. Damage to frozen enemies increased by 20%. I'm sure my brother will be happy about that. He's a frost sorcerer. So, devs know. We have seen that skillful players are frequently slaughtering monsters many levels above their own. We want to support this, but the current situation is beyond what we believe is correct for the long-term health of the game. To chase this goal, we're shifting power to many offensive affixes from defensive affixes. We know this will make our endgame content more deadly, particularly for those chasing our pinnacle boss, an encounter not meant for the faint of heart. Overcoming this, the pinnacle boss will take every ounce of grit you can muster and all tools at your disposal. We will continue to evaluate feedback from the community and make changes to our combat mechanics. So generally speaking, it's like, you know, they've increased the damage of all these damage types, essentially. Increase. Reduced damage reduction. Well, so basically anything that gives you damage reduction defensive stats have been reduced while damage has been increased. So this will mean that you're going to be more careful about pushing higher tier nightmare dungeons. You should still be able to do it by, you need to kill things faster, but if you get hit, you're going to pay for it more. And this should also, at least in terms of dealing with Uber Lilith and maybe bosses like that in the future, like Uber Lilith, I should say, make you'll kill Uber Lilith faster and higher level monsters faster. But if they get you, you're gonna feel it. Like, Uber Lilith already one-shots you, so I guess that's not much of a difference, but it's gonna force you to pick up the pace, right? Like, kill her faster, CC her, build her stagger bar up faster if possible, etc. And hopefully this will offer more variety in terms of how quickly you try and scale in terms of damage, etc. So that's it for today for the Diablo 4 patch notes. There's a lot in there. I hope you enjoyed my review of these. I personally, my overall thoughts is this is good. I like the fact that they're increasing the difficulty of the game, because it was too easy in so many aspects. It's basically like Uber easy or Uber Lilith difficult. And that was basically it, right? Like super easy or Uber Lilith. And kind of like everything in between was just like, it was basically just easy, and then tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons, Uber Lilith. Not necessarily fun. I'm glad they're making these changes. Over the long term, short term it's going to suck, but I think long term it's going to benefit the game far more, make it more enjoyable, especially given the complaints of lots of people, veteran players like myself, who are saying that the game is too easy overall. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you later for my next video, which is going to be about the Malignant Hearts that they released on Blizzard, or through Blizzard. So, take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.